Sometimes the loudest moment in a room is the one where no one is speaking. At 7:30 in the morning, under a sharp white light, the person waiting in the interrogation room keeps turning a paper cup in their hand without drinking from it. The table is cold. The metal chair gives nothing back. Somewhere nearby, a pen clicks once, and somehow that small sound fills the whole room. Why can silence feel heavier than a raised voice? This is the quiet pressure of being watched, waiting, and not knowing how the next few minutes will define you. In this video, I'll walk through why silence can feel so loud in a room like this, and why ordinary details can become almost impossible to ignore. The silence in an interrogation room is not just the absence of sound. It is the space where your mind starts filling in what no one is saying, while your body sits still and tries to act normal. One common reason is that silence makes every small detail feel important. When nobody speaks, your attention has nowhere obvious to go, so it lands on the cup, the table, the light, the sound of a chair leg shifting on the floor. These things are harmless on their own, but inside a room where everything feels loaded, they start to feel like signals. A paper cup turning in someone's hand can feel less like a nervous habit and more like the only thing keeping the moment from swallowing them whole. Sometimes, it comes from the strange contrast between the room looking ordinary and the moment feeling anything but ordinary. Nothing in the room is dramatic by itself. There may be a table, 2 chairs, a recorder, a clock, a door that closes a little too firmly. But the situation gives each object more weight, because the person sitting there knows that a sentence, a pause, or a small reaction may be remembered later. That is why the white light can feel harsh, not because light is dangerous, but because it makes everything feel exposed. In other cases, it grows out of waiting before anything has happened. Waiting gives the mind too much open space, and open space often fills itself with possibilities. The person may not be hearing accusations yet, but they may already be imagining how the questions will sound, how their answers might come out, and what their face might reveal by accident. So the silence does not feel empty, it feels crowded with all the things that could happen, even before anyone says a word. It's 7:30 in the morning, and the room still has that early day feeling, like the rest of the building has not fully woken up. The person in the chair looks down at the paper cup and notices a soft crease near the rim. They rotate it with both hands, not because they want water, but because the small movement gives them something to do. Across the table, nobody has started asking questions yet. Maybe someone is reading a file. Maybe someone is waiting on purpose. Maybe it is just normal procedure. But the person in the chair cannot tell the difference. Their throat feels dry, even though the cup is right there. Their back is stiff from trying to sit in a way that does not look too tense. The pen clicks again. A shoe moves under the table. If you've been there, you're not strange. You might know someone who lives like this. Sometimes silence becomes loud because the room gives you no clear place to put your fear, so it spreads into everything. There is something almost confusing about that kind of pressure, because it does not arrive like a big event. It arrives quietly. It settles into the shoulders. It makes the clock louder. It makes the fluorescent light feel personal. It makes a person aware of how they breathe, where they look, how long they pause, whether their hands seem steady enough. And when a room gets that quiet, even normal human movement can feel like it has meaning. This is why a scream can almost be simpler. A scream tells you something has broken the surface. It gives the room a shape. It says, here is the feeling, here is the danger, here is the release. Silence does not do that. Silence keeps everything under the surface, and because nothing is fully named yet, the mind keeps scanning. It listens for tone. It watches faces. It searches the room for hints. It turns the smallest sound into a question. A small way to understand a moment like this is to separate the room from the facts. The room may feel severe, and the light may feel harsh, but those are conditions around the moment, not the whole meaning of it. Someone might quietly name what is real in front of them: a cup, a table, a chair, a closed door, a clock on the wall. This does not erase the pressure, but it can make the mind less alone with it. The facts become small anchors when the silence starts turning everything into a warning. There is also a quieter way to notice what the body is trying to do. The hands turning the cup may not be random. The eyes dropping to the table may not be weakness. The stiff posture may be the body trying to stay contained in a situation that feels too bright, too still, too watched. Seeing it that way can soften the shame around small reactions. Sometimes the body is not giving anything away. Sometimes it is simply trying to make it through a hard room without making the room even louder. And there's something else here that is not talked about enough. Silence can feel louder when a person feels responsible for controlling how they are seen. In an interrogation room, that pressure is obvious. But a quieter version of it can show up in other places too. A meeting where everyone waits for your answer. A family table after someone asks the one question you hoped would not come up. A hallway conversation where a pause lasts 1 second too long. A room can become loud when it feels like your face, your voice, and your timing are all being read. Not everyone has sat under a white light before questions begin. But many people know what it is like to feel examined while trying to look calm. That is the strange power of silence. It does not force itself into the room. It lets the room do the work. The cold table, the hard chair, the untouched cup, the dry throat, the pen click, the door, the light. Each part stays ordinary, but together they create a pressure that is hard to explain from the outside. Someone might say, nothing happened yet. And technically, that is true. But inside the person waiting, something is already happening. The body has already entered the moment. The mind has already started preparing for impact. The silence has already begun speaking. This is for people who look still on the outside while the room inside them is getting louder. So if the silence in an interrogation room feels louder than a scream, it may be because a scream ends the waiting. Silence keeps it open. It leaves room for fear, memory, guessing, and the strange work of trying to appear normal when nothing feels normal. And sometimes the hardest part of a room is not what is said inside it. It is everything that gathers before the first question.